Thank you very much, Dr. Piatita, and it's a pleasure to see you again. Let me share my screen here so we can get the presentation going. Okay. Great. Okay, so I'll be talking about the Asian Water Development Outlook 2020, and this is a document that ADO, as we call it, that's put out by ADB and the Asia Pacific Water Forum. This was our 4th edition in 2020, and it is a methodology to assess national water security over 5 key dimensions. These include household water security for rural households, economic water security, urban water security, environmental water security, water-related disaster. We have a section on finance and governance, and also some case studies, including Thailand with the work that Dr. Piatita was doing. And she was also active in helping us put the publication together. And we had quite a range of partners on this. What is new in the ADO methodology for 2020 is we improved the methodology and mainly looking at rural households to avoid double counting with urban, and the risk, the disaster key dimension includes risk and resilience. As noted, OECD partnered with us for finance and governance sections, and we had country case studies, including Thailand, Karnataka, the PRC, and Timor-Leste. But if we look across the 5 key dimensions that has made up ADO as a water security index, we see that they're directly related to the various SDGs and not just SDG 6. For instance, on economic, that includes agricultural productivity, renewable energy, and on environment, oceans, management of forests. And as noted by my previous colleagues, really water runs through the SDGs, and this water security index is a way to help us assess water security, as well as assessing progress with the MDGs. So we conducted this in 2020, and we applied the methodology across all of our member countries as well as other countries in the Asia Pacific. And this is just a quick snapshot. So we had 5 ratings: nascent, engaged, capable, effective, and model. And as you can see, the vast majority of Asia is either 2 engaged or 3 capable. And there were several that were for the advanced economies, more developed economies, but none really qualified for the model criteria that we had set out. But I think it's important to note that this does measure improvement in water security over time, and that we see a positive trend looking at the ADO 2020 edition versus the previous editions. We have the PRC moving from engaged to capable, and India from nascent to engaged. And those are quite big steps and affect a vast majority of the population in Asia Pacific. However, many people are still living in a water insecure situation, even if we see an overall positive trend. So let's look at the findings themselves the key dimensions themselves, and just discover whether the glass is half full or half empty. So if we look at key dimension 1, rural household security, it's based on access to water and sanitation, health, and importantly, affordability. This is a dimension that we thought was quite important to have. And we have seen a lot of progress in many countries with rural household water security, especially in the Lao PDR and other places in Southeast Asia. But the recommendations from our findings is you need a holistic systems approach. For example, many countries have comprehensive WASH policies, but very limited, inadequate resources, both capital and human, to implement them. So really, we need this holistic approach to make change, and we need locally appropriate solutions. Economic water security is defined for our publication as economic water security is the measure and the assurance of adequate water to sustainably satisfy a country's economic growth and accommodate economic losses due to water-induced disasters. And this is measures across all dimensions of the economy, including agriculture, energy, industry. We have seen a lot of advancement and improvement in economic water security, particularly in East Asia, mainly due to the measures taken by the PRC, both in infrastructure and policy. And we see most of the countries improving in this dimension. One of the recommendations is for all of them is improved data monitoring and measurement, but we want to see improved productivity, which means adequate water needs to be available when and where it is needed. And an IWRM framework can help ensure this. And certainly climate change will be a challenge. Urban water security is measured by access to water and sanitation, again, affordability, drainage and flow, and the quality of the environment of the water bodies in urban areas. And so and all of these dimensions have indicators and sub-indicators. So they're quite detailed when you get into the methodology, and all from publicly available data sets across all the countries. And I think one of the key things here is there's been massive investment in urban water security, yet the growth of urbanization in Asia Pacific is so rampant that it's very hard to keep up. So really, we do not see significant increases in urban water security due to the growth. But the recommendations that it needs to be a bit more comprehensive and improve attention to future risks and management, including urban growth, non-revenue water, water consumption, energy use, and that we need more integrated solutions in the urban space. And there are opportunities for leapfrogging by less developed countries with new technology, and these should be exploited. The fourth is environmental water security. And there are just two real dimensions here. One is two indicators. One, the health of the catchment and aquatic ecosystems, but also environmental policy. So basically, from what we've seen is almost all of the countries are declining when it comes to environmental water security, just due to significant pressure on ecosystems. And where we did see improvements, it was only due to improved policy frameworks, which is encouraging, but still the state of the ecosystem and aquatic ecosystems are troubling. And also with this, there is a risk that in meeting the other needs for water security with traditional gray infrastructure, environmental security may come at the expense of meeting these other dimensions. And also the pressure of human alteration to land and water resources and longer term impacts of climate change pose very serious threats. Water-related disaster basically includes three types of risks: floods, droughts, and storms. And it's a national level security assessment. And well, hazards have been increasing, and Asia Pacific is by far the most vulnerable region globally to water hazards. We have seen the capacity increasing slightly and vulnerability decreasing slightly over time, and both of these are signs of progress. really the most prominent risk out of these is drought, which can be the longest lasting and actually have the most severe economic impacts. I think one of the more interesting findings in looking at the data is that we really need a gender responsive approach to disaster risk reduction and climate change, that the impacts were disproportionately felt by women and girls versus men from water-related disasters. So that's something that we need to address in our thinking on how this is going to all work together. And also using international agreements and following those. The other is from OECD. This is governance using the 12 governance principles from the Water Governance Initiative from OECD. And the findings are basically most countries have an overarching water policy framework, yet the implementation is constrained due to capacity and funding gaps. There has been a limited uptake of water policy instruments to manage water, in particular, economic instruments to manage water. And in some places across Asia Pacific, there are also integrity concerns in terms of governance. Recommendations, more focus on using economic instruments, adapting water policy instruments to manage trade-offs for competing water use, and again, to focus on integrity and transparency. And also from OECD, we looked at the finance aspects, and water supply sanitation will require 1 to 2% of GDP. Some countries have significant risk exposure, up to 6% of GDP. And we all know how devastating the floods can be, looking back at the Bangkok situation several years ago. And irrigation will need to increase significantly. Now, sources of funding are taxes are the main source of funds for infrastructure, and water supply and sanitation tariffs for operation and maintenance. And while affordability is an issue, we also found in many countries tariffs are underutilized and really do not capture the full willingness to pay, and could be increased in some cases. So the conclusion is it's not all about having more money. One, make the best use of available assets and financial resources. Certainly enhance operational efficiencies of service providers. This is a key priority for us at Asian Development Bank, and also building capacity for economic regulation. Also to minimize future investment needs, so you don't need as many funds. Climate resilient plans to future-proof the sector, and look at policy coherence with water policies and other domains. And again, looking at the tariff issue, let's make sure that they reflect the cost of service provision, and also trying to crowd in private sector finance. Let me just mention 2 case studies here. One is in the state of Karnataka, India. India's Niti Aayog, which is a national agency that monitors effectiveness of various institutions and sectors, came up with their own index, water security index. The state of Karnataka took that as well as the ADO methodology and created their own based on those, but using the ADO principles. And it was used as a tool to help shape the new state policy, water policy, which also is the basis for the new state law. And they've also set up a program to collect data and streamline the data collection. So this will be a living document that will be updated as a measure of water security in Karnataka. And it was also a very good opportunity to bring the different stakeholders together, this exercise, and they've created their own report. The other is this in a ADB technical assistance in the Yellow River Basin. We provided support to the Yellow River Conservancy Commission to do a water sector assessment of the basin. And that was used to feed into the Yellow River Basin Master Plan, as well as our own Yellow River Ecological Corridor Initiative at ADB, where it's a main focus for us. And not only did it go into the master plan and policy dimensions, but ADA was used to identify an investment roadmap, looking at the different threats throughout the basin from upstream to downstream, and to highlight 16 projects out of 33 as an investment plan for the basin. So it is a useful tool. It was also used extensively in Thailand. I did not go into that case study, but really it was one of the most advanced applications. It is the most advanced application of ADO that I've seen with the Thai government. I want to talk just quickly. We did do a comprehensive guidance note on the water sector for post-COVID. And these are just a few of the findings. And these are the things that we're also doing at ADB, strengthening the linkage between WASH and health, and ensure service delivery, and looking at wastewater-based epidemiology, and really taking the health components and scaling those up in our water projects. And then the other, I think, key thing coming out of COVID, which was happening anyway, was the acceleration of the digital utility. And this is to have automated billing systems, revenue collection, monitoring, remote control, improve communications with customers. That I think COVID really accelerated this and continues to accelerate this, which was taking place anywhere. And also, we're working with our clients to build resilience and absorb shocks to pandemics, emergency plans, financial planning. And there was a diversification of supply chains to ensure necessary inputs, especially for water supply sanitation. And really, this is an opportunity for a green and nature positive recovery. ADB is committed to this, and COVID provides that opportunity. And I just want to thank you for your time. If you have any questions, happy to answer, or you can contact me at that email.